Hey there, my name is Daoud Miracle, and I am the co-founder and digital director of Doing Good, which is a branding and web design agency. And you spoke with our salesperson, Jasmine, and she asked us to do a video review of your website, which is something we often do for people. Now, normally we review kind of the visual branding, the styling, certainly the design of your website. Spend a little bit of time talking about conversion points and things like that, as we really focus on building websites that convert. I'm going to take a little bit of a deviation from that. We're going to talk a little bit about design, but it's going to be in a different manner because I think overall your website design, it looks nice. It certainly doesn't look arcane. You should see some of the sites we see. There's some pretty ugly ones, but your site is attractive and interesting and modern feeling. And so I'm not going to talk about design too much. I'm going to spend some time talking about website architecture. And the reason for that is I feel that there's quite a bit of confusion when I come to your website as to who it is that you're serving. Now, it's clear, I think, somewhat as to what you do, though there's so many things happening here. This website's so big with so many different elements that it can be difficult to create a site architecture that will cover and hold all that. Now, I'm not suggesting the second or third website. What I'm suggesting is in my comments here is that we look at a completely different site architecture. And that means how do we lay out the content that we want people to find? And so when I come to this site, it feels like it's a lot about um, how you want people to find your information. And while that's important, it's much more important that you think of how your audience wants to interact with your website. What is your audience looking for? What are they trying to find? And when you have two completely separate audiences here, medical professionals, your consumers, clients, patients, it can be complicated. And it's something that I think should be revisited because what I don't see is if I didn't know anything about your work, stumbled across your website, came to a blog post, so on and so forth. If I came to a blog post, I'd jump to your homepage. If I came to a podcast, I'd jump to your homepage. That would be the next place that I would go to because I'd want to find out more. Now, that gives me a little advantage because I would have been on a podcast, maybe listened to something and have an idea of what you're talking about. But if I come back to your homepage, I really don't see what my next step would be. What would my interest be? And so this is where it gets into design a little bit. There are some design elements that would shift, but more importantly, what is it that your customers, again, consumers, patients, medical professionals, what are they really looking for? And how can we put that stuff for them front and center? And so I think we could do a better job here with the way the site lays out from an architectural fact. Also, maybe a little high here on the site, on the homepage for items that you want people to purchase. Um, I'm not so sure the homepage is the right place for that this high up because I still don't know if you can serve my needs. Even if I'm a medical professional, I may know who you are. I may have a little bit of a background with you. Maybe I've spoken with somebody in the office. Um, but I'm probably not ready to jump into a program yet because I don't have any information. This would be a great place for like overall, I wouldn't say philosophy, but more like really nailing down um, why I'm here and how it is that you can best serve me before we get into programs. And this here, I think, is really confusing. It's great that it's color coded. I think that's a lovely thing. What's interesting about color coding, because I used to do many websites in the past that were, is that people often don't see that. They somehow read through it and see through it. And this comes from 15 years of usability studies with people like Neil Jacobson, who has tested things like this from how people actually use websites. And what they find is that the colors don't really stand out for people in a way that we would hope they would as designers or developers. And so the sign up here, I'm not sure this is the right place. A simple solution potentially might be having a little drop down menu. Maybe up here in the corner that people could click on. It could drop down and they could choose, are they a professional interested in signing up or are they a consumer interested in signing up? Don't know if that's the right thing, but it's an idea of a solution that would limit some of these problems. And again, here the same sort of thing. It looks like you're sort of the top part of the site's sort of the left side's a little bit for professionals, the right side's a little bit for consumers, though we break with that here. Um, and then we come back to it here. So just in general, how your content lays out. Again, be thinking about how it is that people are going to be using your site. That's what's most important. I was also intrigued that your clinic is such a tiny representation here, at least from the navigation point of view, and doesn't have much on the homepage at all as I scroll down through here. Um, And so another thing, I don't know how important the clinic is. I don't know if the clinic is the foundation, but it might be interesting to bring that out more. Even if on the homepage, as you get toward the bottom, maybe under the practitioners, there was a place here to talk about the clinic a little bit. Again, trying to balance all these different audiences with with what your business needs are. Now, one thing you're seeing as I'm scrolling through the site here is you're noticing there's a little bit of a hiccup. This is not the video. This is actually your website. I tried this in a few different browsers, and so I have some things to say about that shortly. But you can see that the site doesn't scroll smoothly, that it has to reload things every time we go through it, and that's also an issue. There might be a structural code issue in there that's causing that. I'd also love to see the podcast since they seem like they're interesting. I listened to a couple. They seem like they're a focal point. So bringing those more to the forefront also on the homepage might be important. So I could see a complete structural rework of your homepage, both from a design point of view, but more importantly, from the point of view of really answering those questions of what are your audience looking for when they come to your site? Are they self-identifying? Do they find what they want? And are they going deeper into your site to be more interested in whichever gateway you're opening for them? So that's how I'm going to leave the website. Now, getting back to that structural issue again, as I scroll down, you'll see the site kind of whites out a little bit. Things start to load again. Once the website loads, it shouldn't need to load again. So again, I had this experience in a couple of different browsers, and so just wanted to speak to that for a second. Another thing I looked at, and I'm going to get to two more points, and we can talk more when we have a chance to meet, of course. And I'm happy to answer any and all your questions. Um, so one thing I noticed, so your site does come back as being mobile friendly. That's what this is. This is a mobile emulator. But what's interesting is I ran the Google mobile friendly test 4 different times. Each time it came back with a different result. Twice it told me it was friendly. Twice it told me your site's not mobile friendly. And once, this last time I ran it, it gave me this error, which I can't replicate on the desktop side. I also couldn't replicate on my phone. But there is this error that's coming up, and it's not a render error from Google. This is an error that's happening from your website somehow. You can see your site's not loading completely on this render. So when I look at that, and then I look at some of the holes, maybe some of the gaps that are left from from the mobile side. Again, this is a mobile emulator looking at your site on a iPhone 8. Mostly mobile friendly. I'd love to see some more spacing up here. Another use of this area up here. There's no gaps, no spacing. Doesn't matter what size I use. But you see, if I go to like an iPad Mini, then we've got a little bit of spacing, a little bit of edging over here that is nice. But again, if I came to the site on a mobile device, so I may pick my arena. Am I going to professional side? Am I going to the consumer side? But then the next things I see really have nothing to do with what my interest might be. These are the products that you're looking to sell or the programs you're looking to sell. And again, that whole idea of the left-right side with the orange and blue, that all goes away on mobile. Um, and the graphics don't work on your slideshow either, but that's another story we can talk about. And so you can see, like again, as I'm loading this on this mobile emulator, things are loading as I'm moving down the page. Again, not ideal. Um, so I think there's something going on the code side that we'd have to dig in to really see what that is. And again, we could talk about that if you want. Lastly, and again, this gets back to structural and code. Your site loads really slowly. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to, and again, there's no pause here on the video. So you see, when I go to go to vision and mission, I get there quickly. As I pop back to home, it takes a couple of moments. You can see this is thinking up here. It takes a couple of moments for your home page to load. So I'm still waiting for it to load. I can't scroll. So they're finally loaded. You see the latency that's in your site when it tries to reload the home page. And we're back to that it loading elements here. As you see, this is happening as I scroll down. So I ran your site through Google's page speed indexer insights, and it tells me, so the score is between 1 and 100, 1 and 100, and it tells me that you get a 1 on the mobile site for speed score, and desktop you get a 47. Just to give you a little bit of reference there, desktop for most sites is usually somewhere in the 80s, and really well-designed sites are in the 90s as far as speed, and you're about half that. Mobile, you see everywhere from like 50 up to like 70. And a really, really well-built site will be in the 80s as far as speed. Why is speed important? There's a number of reasons. I'm going to cover a couple of them and we can talk in more detail again because I want to not have this video go much longer. Speed is really important because Of course, load times. If your site doesn't load fast, then people aren't going to stick around. They're going to see that there's a glitch or something and they'll move on somewhere else to find what they're looking for. By the way, that's also the case when your site seems and feels a little bit confusing and people can't immediately find what they want. The people will leave because Google's usually one step away and they can go there and more readily find what they're looking for. Um, but back to speed is certainly load time, how fast the site loads, especially on a mobile device when people are using a 4G or even the LTE network. It's still your site's still going to have some latency and load speeds, and again, that could cause people to be frustrated and want to leave. But even more importantly, um, Google has said a while ago that a site needs to be mobile friendly to be indexed anymore. But they've also said that they'll rank sites higher based on how quickly they load because they want to provide the best experience for their customers, their Google customers as possible. This applies even more so with mobile. There is talk of Google really lowering your rankings based on load speed. And so it's something to really consider if we have this latency with the homepage loading, we have this weird error message that's popping up. And again, it popped up 1 out of 4 times that I ran the test. It didn't pop up each time, which is kind of weird. Um, but fixing the load speed issues, and again, I'd have to dig in to know why this is happening. But fixing that is pretty important. It's probably close to being as important as having a site where your architecture, where the way the site lays out and the way your content is put together, uh, really meets your audience's needs. And so I would give all of these things some consideration. And I'm hoping from this that potentially you have some questions. And if you do, we're happy to answer those. Jasmine will be in touch with you in the next few days, and maybe we can schedule a time to talk with myself and my partner Adrian. He's our visual branding expert in this process. He's also our design director. And so, once again, I want to say that my name is Dawood Miracle, and we're here as a branding and web design agency. And our goal is really to build thriving brands with remarkable websites so that you can get the patients, clients, and customers that you're really looking for. And we do that through very solid branding techniques. And so, again, we'd love to chat with you and see if we can help you out in some way. So, again, thank you for your time, and I look forward to talking to you. Thank you.